Hello and welcome to this course on Basic Python for Life Sciences. My name is Monachi Elekwa and I'll be facilitating this course. This course is supposed to provide a foundational knowledge of Python, especially for people in the life sciences. So if you are interested in data science, machine learning, or applications of technology to healthcare and life sciences generally, and you don't know where to start. So this is a good place or the best place to start. So this course, like I said, is going to provide foundational knowledge of Python. We're going to be looking at an overview of what Python is. We're going to be looking at basic concepts in Python and a little data analysis with Python. So this course is like an introduction to a series of other courses that will be released. So, like I said again, it is supposed to provide foundation for the deeper content when it comes to data science and data analysis. So, we're going to be looking at the introduction. So, what should you expect from this course? So, by the end of this course, you should be able to understand basic Python concepts like data types, lists, functions, and you should be able to load and explore scientific data sets. You should be able to perform basic data cleaning and create simple visualizations. So, why Python? So, there are a lot of programming languages that exist. We have JavaScript, we have Java, we have C++, we have Go. So there are a lot of them, but why have we singled out Python specifically? So Python, relatively to other programming languages, is easy to learn and it has a readable syntax because it is closer to the English language than others are. And it's also rich in scientific and bioinformatics libraries. So a lot of people that have started building or working in life sciences or healthcare when it comes to technology have already built libraries or frameworks already on Python. So it's easier to get in line with what has been already built. And that is one of the um, importance of learning Python because you get to build on what others have already built and it makes it easier to learn. And also, Python is very versatile and applicable in any context. You can use Python for web development, you can use Python for data analysis, for machine learning, and to automate any kind of process, basically. So, we're going to move on to basic concepts in Python, and we're going to start with statements, comments, and strings. So, before we start, when you want to write code, any type of programming language, you have to use or write your code on what we call an integrated development environment, an IDE. So, what are IDEs? IDEs are basically tools or applications that allow you write and edit code. So, for example, now, when you want to write basic English test, you use your Microsoft Word, you use your Google Docs. So, those are tools or environments that allow you to write and edit text. Now, when it comes to code, you can't use Microsoft Word to write code, you can't use Google Docs to write code. You have to use a tool or an app that has been specifically customized to understand and interpret code. And that's what we call an IDE. So there are different types of IDEs. I think the most popular is the VS Code. A lot of people like to use VS Code. And we also have Google Colab. We also have Sublime, which is specifically for Python. But for the sake of this course, we are going to be using Google Colab because it is on the cloud and you can access it on the web, unlike VS Code that will have to do an installation and all of that. So, but if you want to use VS Code, that's very fine. You can just go and search your browser for VS Code and install and set it up. So for the sake of this course, we're going to use Google Colab and it's really easy to set up. My Google Colab is already open, but I'm just going to show you how to set it up. So when you come to your Chrome or any browser you're using, you just type Google Colab. Just pop and click on it. So if you are already signed in on your Chrome account, you are obviously going to see the interface this way. But if you are not signed in, so you just sign in on your Chrome account and then you can just get started. New notebook. So when you open a new notebook, this is the interface that you see. So now this box is a place where you write your code or whatever command you want to execute. So Google Colab is specifically customized for Python. The programming language that runs on Google Colab is Python, so it's so much easier to use. So now you click on this to add a new code block if you want to start a new code block, and you can click on this to add a text, maybe a descriptive text or something that explains the code that you want to write. And then when you hover around the code block, this appears for you to run whatever command you have written. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this so that we can start off with the code. So yes, basic concepts. We have a statement. So a statement is an instruction that tells Python to perform an action. So just like in English language, when you make a statement, I am a girl or I am a boy, that's a simple statement. And in Python, this is usually a declaration or an assignment of a string or a number or a letter to a variable. So a simple statement in Python could be name equals Mona. So now this is a simple statement. I have just told Python that wherever you see name in this block of code, I'm referring to Mona. This is a simple statement. And also, statements are executed line by line from top to bottom. So what this means is that the sequence in which you write your code matters a lot. So if you write name equal to Mona, and if you write maybe age, you write age equal to 14. Yes, I'm 14, whether you believe it or not. So, and you want to display this variable, you print age, and then you also print name. So the print statement here tells Python to display whatever it is that you have attached after the after the print command. So whatever is in the bracket, you are telling Python to display it in the output. So when you left that name equal to Mona, if you run it, nothing will happen because you have not told Python to do anything with it. It's just like, oh, name is equal to Mona, noted. But when you now go ahead to say print name or print age, it now displays it as you want. So I'm going to use this to explain something. So when you run this code, this is taking a bit of time. Yes. So when you run this code, you're going to see that it prints age before name, in as much as you defined name before age, but it prints age before name because statements are executed line by line from top to bottom. So as you can see, the print age statement came before the print name statement. So that is why your age is appearing first before the name. So the sequence and order in which you write your code is very important. So now we move to comments. So comments are notes written for humans that are ignored by Python during execution. So comments are basically meant to make your code readable. So when you're writing a particular code and you want to collaborate with someone, if you just write a whole bunch of code and there are no comments to explain line by line what each code is doing, the person that you're collaborating with might be lost. So that is why we have what we call comments. They are used to explain. It allows you to write plain English text to explain what your code does or the function of that particular code you're writing. So assuming I want to attach a comment, I've said name is equal to Mona. And usually comments are started with the hash symbol. So when I put an hash, it tells the executor that this is a comment. So when I said this is my name, and here I'm going to make another comment. This is my age. So if I run this code again, as you can see, it did not have any effect on the output of this code because this is a comment and it's just meant for human consumption, for you to read your code and understand. So now strings are pieces of text written inside quotation marks. So either your single or double quotation mark. An example of a string is this name, Mona. So Mona is a string. As you can observe, the age is not written in any quotation mark or any inverted commas because this data type is a number and it does not need to be put into quotation marks. But this is a string because it's a text that needs to be put in inside a quotation mark for the Python interpreter to understand it. So any form of text or sentence or English statement that you want to assign to something, you have to put it in quotation marks for it to be interpretable by the Python operator. So Mona is a string, and let's say if we have another variable, um hospital, let's say hospital name, we have another variable hospital name, and we assign it FMC Jabi. So FMC Jabi is also a string because it is a name, it is a value for something that is not a number and that is not a boolean data type. We're going to look at that in the next slide. So basically any text or sentence or statement that you want to define in Python, you have to put it in quotation marks and it is referred or recognized as a string by the Python operator. So now strings are commonly used to store names or any text data. And concatenation means joining two or more strings together using the plus operator. So if you want to join two strings together, let's say I already have here name is Mona and age is 14. If I want to say Mona is 14 years old, now I have already defined name and I have already defined age. I want to say Mona is 14 years old. So this is how I'm going to join this. I'm going to define another print statement. I'm going to say print name plus is plus ages already defined plus is old. And then I'm going to run this again. Yeah. So we have gotten an error and only concatenate string, not integer to string. So yes, it's good that we have this error. Now, this error is popping up because you cannot concatenate string to another data type. The problem is with this age. So age is not a string, as you can see, is a number. So that is why we cannot concatenate this to age. That is why we have this error. So we're just going to change it to a string all round. You can only concatenate string to string. So you're going to say name is 14 years old. And we're going to run this again. As you can see, we have Mona is 14 years old. Okay, there is no space here because a space is a character and you also have to add it. So assuming I add a space before is, we're going to rerun this. Mona is 14 years old. So yeah, we have concatenated or added two strings together. So now the exercise one, joining strings, you're going to write a comment to describe the code. So these exercises are just for you to practice. It's just like a prompt for you to practice what you have learned so far to solidify your learning. So as you go through the course, try out these exercises on your own. I'm not going to be doing the exercises, so just take it as a prompt to try your hands on it. And we're going to move to the next slide. So in the next slide, we have variables and data types. So I've already introduced variables. For example, name is a variable, age is a variable. So variables are like labeled boxes where you can store information. So this name, I have used it to store this string, Mona. Age, I have used it to store this number, 14. So these are variables that you can use to store any form of information. So variable names should be descriptive and meaningful. So this is for also to enhance code readability, because if I just came here and I said X is equal to Mona, I mean anybody that wants to follow might find it difficult to follow. But when you use very descriptive names for your variables, like name equal to Mona, maybe hospital number equal to this, patient relative name equal to this. So as much as possible, when you're defining variables, you should use very descriptive and meaningful names. So variables are assigned values using the equality symbol, and variable names cannot contain spaces. You use an underscore instead. So I assuming I want to say first name, and I just use a space to say first name. As you can see, the code editor has already underlined this for me because a variable name cannot contain space. So if I want to join maybe like a phrase or more than one word together for variable names, I have to use an underscore. And I say first name is equal to this. So for data types, we have different kinds of data types. We have strings, as you can see, Mona is a string. We have an integer, 14 is an integer. So an integer is a data type that is used to represent whole integer values. So as the name implies, an integer is used to represent whole values, whole numbers, 14, 15, 2, 3. But a float is a data type that is used to represent decimal values or floating points. So assuming this was 14, 15.6 or 1.2, these are float data types. 14 is an integer, 14.5 is a float. So now for Boolean, a Boolean is used to represent the truth value of an expression. So the value can only be true or false. So is another data type that is used to store information. So assuming I want to say, I want to store information on patient's sex. So if I say is female, so this underline here now is coming. Okay, this is because I've not defined the variable. So once I put an equal to sign, the variable is defined. So is female, and the answer to this, or the expression of this variable has to be either true or false. For if I want to say that the person in question is either female or not, I will use true or false, and that is a boolean. So if I write true, in whatever way I reference this information or variable subsequently, will recognize it as true or false. I'm going to be expanding more on this later when we go to functions and all of that. So just know that for the Boolean data type, the value can either be true or false. So the person in question being defined is a female or not. So that's what we have for variables and data types. And this is an example down here. So we're just going to move to the next slide. So now we have lists and list methods. So let's create another code block to help us. So we have list and list method. So a list in Python is an ordered collection that lets you store multiple items in a single variable. So for this variable first name, we are only able to store Mona, that is one value or one item. So, but when you define a list, it helps you store multiple items in a single variable. So let's say we have a collection of people and I want to define people. So I can say people equal to. So to create a list, you use a square bracket and separate your items with a comma. So if I say people equal to this, I have defined a list and I can go ahead to add the items on the list. I can say Mona and I'll separate it with a comma, and I can go ahead to add another item. I can say Nkem, and I can add Folake, and I can add Alabi. So the variable called people is a list of people or of strings, as you can see. So a list is defined with square brackets. You separate your items using a comma. And you can also create a list of numbers. You can say odd numbers equal to square brackets, odd numbers. You can list 1, you can list 3, you can list 5, you can list 7, you can list 9, and so on. So this has defined a list of odd numbers. So you can access items in a list by their index, is the position of the item in the list. And in Python, counting starts from 0. So for these items on this list, Mona is at 0 position, not the first, not number 1. Mona is at 0 position, Nkem is number 1, Folake is number 2, and Alabi is number 3. So let's see this in action. So if I want to say, I want to access the first item on the people list, I can say print people. I put number 0. So this is telling the Python operator to print the item at the 0 index position of the people list. So let's run this, and it prints Mona because Mona is at 0 position. So assuming I change this to 3, it's going to print Alabi. So assuming also you want to print the names on a range, assuming I want to print the first item to, let's say, the third item, so I can say 0 semicolon 2. So this semicolon tells it that you want a range from this to this. So let's see. it prints Mona and Nkem. So when you are putting a range, it starts from the first index number, and it stops at the index number before just before the limit you have given it. So for example, you gave it index number 2 as a limit. So this is 0, 1, 2. I know you might have been expecting to see Folake, but it leaves Folake out because whenever you put a range, you have to add a number on top of where you want it to stop, because it recognizes a range as the first to the last, excluding the limiter that you have used. So assuming I wanted it to add for like I'll just increase this to 3. And it now gives me the range from 0 to 3. So that is Mona and Kem for like. Yes. So you can access list items by using their index. You can also modify list items using several list methods. So we have what we call list methods, and these are sort of commands that allow you to modify or manipulate a list. So assuming I say people dot append, that means I want to add. When you see the append method for a list, is for you to add, as the name implies, for you to add an item at the end of a list. So if you want to add an item at the end of a list, you use the dot append method. So I want to add Ngozi to my list, and I just say people dot append Ngozi, and I'm going to run this again. Okay, as you can see, we ran this and nothing happened, right? This is an example of how Python works. For this to work, you have to actually print it out. So it's sort of, at this stage, you just told it, add Ngozi to my list. It says, okay, noted. So when you now use the print statement, it now goes ahead to display it. So you can now print people again. When you print this list again, you're going to see that Ngozi has been added to the end of the list. So we now have, you have another method, dot insert index, dot insert, which takes in an index number, that's where the point exactly that you want to insert the new item, and then X is the new item. So we're going to try this. We're going to do people dot insert, and first of all, you have to identify an index. As you can see, if you're using Google Colab, you're going to be seeing prompts from the editor. It will tell you what you should put here, as is signaling you to put an index number where you want to insert the new item. So let's say I want to insert it after Nkem. So this is 0, this is 1, and I want to insert it at number 2. So I'm going to add index number 2 and using a comma, and I'm going to add let's say Kiki. Then I'm going to print people again. So let's see. As you can see, it has inserted Kiki at position number 2 to your list. So we also have another list method, dot remove, which allows you to remove the first occurrence of an item. So I can come here, people dot remove. I want to remove Mona from my list. And then I'm going to print people again. Let's run this. As you can see, Mona has been removed from the list. So assuming there are multiple Monas, it will only remove the first occurrence of that item. There are other methods that allows you to remove every occurrence of the item, but you can see more or read more on that. So we have an exercise. You can try out this exercise, and then so this exercise, like I said, are to prompt you or to help you to practice what you've learned. So you can try your hands on these exercises. I would advise that you try your hands on them yourself before you run to AI or ChatGPT or Claude or whatever for help. So to help your learning process, try it out on your own first, and then if you're stuck, you can try out um, an AI model. So now we have dictionaries. So previously we have looked at lists, we have looked at strings and data types. So now we are going to go ahead to look at dictionaries. So we're going to create a new code block. And a dictionary in Python is a collection of key value pairs. So just like in a regular English dictionary, the format is usually the word and then the description of the word. It is simply the same thing in this case. So a dictionary is used to store a collection of key value pairs. So, and the difference between your list and your dictionary is that you use curly braces. Remember, for list, for you to define a list, you have to use a square bracket. Now, for dictionary, you have to use curly braces to define a dictionary. So, assuming I want to create a repository of maybe biography, let's say biography of people, and I want to define this as a dictionary that contains the names and ages and, let's say, city of a person. So I'm going to define this as a dictionary, and then I'm going to go ahead and start putting entries. So let's say name. So use a semicolon to, so name here is the key. Like I you remember I said is used to store a collection of key value pairs. So name here is the key, and the value would be a string, let's say Mona. And then you also separate using commas. And then I want to say age. I use 15. Separated. Okay, yeah, I'm getting this because this should be in, yeah. So even when you're defining your keys, you have to put them in square brackets because as entries now, they are strings. So age is 15 and you have city is, let's say, Lagos. So you have successfully defined a dictionary. Now, to get the value for a specific key, you use your square brackets. So you define the dictionary using curly braces, but when you want to access a particular item in the dictionary, you have to use a square bracket. So say I want to access name, so I'm going to print biography. I'm going to use square brackets name. So this is going to print out whatever is the value of name in the dictionary biography. So you can see it has printed Mona. And you can also, we have dictionary methods that you can use to print or return a list of all the keys. So all the keys here are name, age, city. So assuming I want to know, assuming this is a really large or bulky dictionary, it has a lot of entries, and I just want to see like a short or a glance of all the keys that are in this dictionary, I can simply use the dictionary method, and simply use print biography dot keys. So the dot keys method prints all the keys in the dictionary. So it has told you dictionary keys, name, age, and city. So assuming I want to also print all the values in the dictionary, I can simply change this to dot values, and I'm going to run this again. And you have your values, Mona, 15, and Lagos. So assuming I want to return a list of all the key value pairs as tuples. So a tuple is basically like a list, but it cannot be modified. For lists, you can modify it, you can append, you can insert, you can do a lot of manipulation. But for tuples, you cannot modify it. So it just like displays your items as a list. So we can use the dot items feature, dot items, and we're going to run this again, and it brings out a list of all the dictionary items, so name, Mona, and this. So we can also use the delete can also use the delete function, as you can see. So that is it for dictionaries, and we also have an exercise here. So you have to create a dictionary named patient record with the data provided. So you have to print the patient's name and test result and all of that. So like I said, try your hands on the exercises, and we're going to move to the next slide. Next slide, we're going to be looking at loops and conditionals.